Scoring and colors play an important role in spider impact. In the new alert section, I immediately see the impact of colors. The first alert shown is highlighting a red value for the total gross profit measure for the month of September. If I click on it to investigate, I get down to a detailed view where I can see the coloring being displayed in many areas. In the measure and threshold value section, I see a red colored circle and a normalized score for the month of September. In the speedometer in the top left, I see it is in the red. Right above that, I see a red colored rectangle, illustrating that the actual value of 100,000 is down 150,000 from the prior month. This must mean if I toggle back to August, the actual should be 250,000. And it is, so I'll return back to September. In the chart in the top right, I see a red colored circle for September. I can also see that September is the only month within the entire last year that is operating in the red. Every other month is in yellow or green. If I look at the Measures tab in the top left, I see there is a red alert because the month's actual is in the red. If I toggle back to August, that alert goes away. I'll work back to September. I'll then click on the Measures tab. I see there are color indicators in the top left corner of every month. If I hover over the name or any one of the numbers, the entire row is highlighted in that color, making it stand out even more. Now return back to the Overview tab. In the secondary navigation pane on the left, I see colors appearing throughout the scorecard hierarchy. Without having to click on a different item, I can see that top level is in yellow for the month. The financial perspective is in red. The increase revenue objective is in yellow. And if I expand it, I can see why. One of the measures is in green, one is in yellow, and one is in red. I'll collapse it again and focus in on total gross profit. Because that measure is active on screen, I'm seeing a red color visual in two places, to the left of the measure and to the right of the name. If I select a different item like increased profit, I see that item now has two colors, while the red to the left of total gross profit has turned gray since it's no longer active on screen. Next, I'd like to return to the home page and see the impact of coloring in other areas of the product. If I click on My Measures, I'll see just for the measures I'm the owner of, a colorized view of performance for September on the left. At the top, there are green, yellow, and red filters that allow me to focus in on a particular area. If I click on red, I'll see just the red measures. If I click it again, I'll see all. Next, I'll return to the Welcome page by clicking on it, and then select Update Measures to see the measures I'm responsible for updating. My measures have been updated. In the top left of the period column, I can see a color indicator showing my performance for that month. If I hover over the measure name or period, the coloring expands to the entire cell. I'll click Welcome once again and select My Tasks. Just like with measures, I have color indicators for each task on the left and at the top. I have color filters where I can focus in on maybe just my red tasks, and then click again to show all tasks. I'll go back to the Welcome page and now review the impact of coloring in the Presentation section. To do this all at one time, I'll select Briefings and see an existing briefing named Monthly Staff Meeting, which contains a collection of all the various presentation objects. On the first page of the briefing is the Corporate Performance Dashboard. In the pyramid in the top left, I can see that 3 of my perspectives are performing okay in the yellow, while the organizational capacity perspective is performing poorly in red. If I skip to page 6 of the briefing, I can see the color impact in the sales report. If I scroll to the bottom, and thanks to the color, I can see that active trials has been in the red 11 months in a row, and certainly an area of concern. Okay, with that, I'd like to take a step all the way back and discuss the concept of normalized scoring in spider impact. To help illustrate this, I'm going to select scorecards, expand examples, and scoring types. I'll then select goal red flag. Measures and their associated normalized scores are the foundation of how performance is tracked and presented. Spider Impact assigns a normalized score between 0 and 10 based on the measure's actual value, thresholds, and scoring type. Spider Impact provides 11 different scoring types, allowing for many options for associating actual performance with normalized scores. If I select Edit, select Scoring Type, I'll see each of these options as I scroll through it here. I'll then select Done. I've put together an example for each one of those scoring types, and I'll highlight some of the key differences. I'll start with the most popular one, goal and red flag. If I set the red flag value to 500 and have an actual of 500, I know that will be the point it turns red, and I have a score of 3.33. Conversely, if I have a goal of 800 and have an actual of 800, I know that will be the point it turns green and have a normalized score of 6.67. To determine the points at which 0 and 10 are hit, Spider Impact calculates the difference between the red flag and the goal. In this case, that's 300. It then subtracts or adds that value to determine the endpoints. For instance, if I have an actual value of 200, which is 300 less than the red flag, that is the point it hits 0, effectively the worst value. Conversely, if I have an actual of 1100, which is 300 more than the goal, that's the point I hit 10, effectively the best value. Moving on to 3-color scoring, this option provides more control over defining the best and worst values. Instead of having best and worst auto-assigned, I can set whatever I want for them. In this case, 0 and 1500. For example, if I had an actual of 200, whereas the score was 0 in the goal red flag model, it now has a score of 1.33. Only add an actual of 0. Will I have a score of 0. Moving on to goal only scoring, this option requires only that a goal value be set, and a determination if higher values are better. And to show that, I'll click Edit. That was set to yes, and I'm at the goal or above. In this case, I'm at 800, which is at the goal or above. I'll be in the green and get a normalized score of 10. If I change the value to something less than 800, now let's make it 795, I'll be in the red and at a score of 0. Moving on to yes/no scoring. This option is very similar to goal only, but does not require a goal. I also need to make the determination if yes is good or not, and I'll click Edit to show that. If it's set to yes and the actual is no, I'll be in the red and have a score of 0. If the actual is yes, I'll be in the green and have a score of 10. Moving on to 2-color scoring, this option allows for the setting of best and worst values along with the goal. There is no red flag. Anything at or above the goal is in green, while anything below the goal is red. There is no yellow. Moving on to 4-color blue, this option requires 5 threshold points: worst, red, goal, reach out, and best. A value at each of the threshold points will generate scores of 0, 2.5, 5, 7.5, and 10 respectively. For example, an actual of 1200, that equals the reach out. That will be in a blue with a score of 7.5. Moving on to 4-color orange, this option is very similar to 4-color blue, except the reach out point is replaced with the warning point. For example, an actual that is equal to warning is in orange with a score of 5. Moving on to 4-color scored middle. This option requires 3 thresholds: red, yellow, and gold. Colors range from red to yellow to light green to dark green. Moving on to two color stabilized, this option requires 5 thresholds: low worst, low target, best, high target, and high worst. In this model, scores go from red to green and then back to red. Moving on to three color stabilized, this option requires 7 thresholds, from low worst to high worst. Low red flag and high red flag are 2 additional items required. In this model, scores go from red to yellow to green, back to yellow, and red. Lastly, in the unscored option, this option requires no thresholds. Its purpose is simply for tracking purposes. For example, a total revenue measure that allows the summing of all your revenue measures that have visibility in one location. However, it has no impact on colorized scoring whatsoever. The next item I'd like to review is how scores are rolled up a scorecard hierarchy. Once measures have been scored, parent objects like objectives and perspectives get their score via a weighted average of the scores of the objects directly beneath them. I'll minimize scoring types and select normalized scoring. By default, Spider Impact assigns an equal weight to each measure. If I had just these two measures and the score for total gross profit was 0 and the score for employee satisfaction was 10, product sums those two up, divides by 2, and produces a normalized score of 5 in yellow for the parent. However, the weight can be customized. To show that, I'll click on total gross profit. I'll select edit. I'll click on weight, change it to 3, and click save. And then done. I'll click on the parent, and I now see that it is in the red with the score that has dropped from 5 to 2.5. The treatment of nulls also plays a big impact on the color. I'll minimize normalized scoring and select tree rollup. I see that total gross profit is in yellow and employee satisfaction is in gray because a measure value has not yet been provided. Although each measure was assigned an equal weight of 50, if only one has an actual, the null measure will display a weight of 0. I'm also provided with a tooltip explaining why. I'll go back to August, when both measures had an actual, and I'll see the equal weight of 50. I'll switch back to September. Next, I'll minimize tree rollup, expand time aggregation, and select KPI 1. I'll switch to quarterly in the top right. I see that a score of 5.83 displays in yellow for the quarter, even though only July and August were populated with measure values. That behavior can be changed. I'll select administration and then application administration. Under scoring, the ignore periods without values for time aggregation can be switched to no. If that was set, the normalized score and color for the KPI I was just reviewing would disappear until the September value is loaded. Right above that is an option to ignore gray scorecard items for tree rollup. If that was switched to no, the tree rollup objective in the example from earlier would switch from yellow to gray and would remain that way until all the measures it contained were populated.